I'm about to be zooted. Holy shit. Damn, that's some good shit. I shouldn't be drinking caffeine so late at night, but.
Start. I got hoes that I'm keeping in the dark. I got my niggas across the street living large. Thinking back to the fact that they dead. Thought my raps were the facts, so they sat with the bars. I got 2 phones, one need a charge. Yeah, they twins, I can tell they ass apart. I got big packs.
Alright, welcome back to another brand new video. Today we are talking Lightroom, and we are gonna go over some pictures. And with those pictures, we're gonna be editing them, which is what I do every day of my life for the past shit, like 3 years now. No. Well, anyways, so I've picked out probably 2 to 3 pictures over in Lightroom, and I'm gonna edit those out for you guys. Basically, just showing you guys my approach, my process. How do I go about, you know, exposing the picture? How do I go about coloring it? How do I use my presets? And if I don't use presets, like how do I go about that? Very simple, straightforward video. Nothing too crazy, nothing too complicated. Literally just you guys watching me edit, and I'm just explaining what I'm doing in that moment of editing. So without further ado, let's jump right to it. Alright, so we are now in Lightroom desktop. We are about to go ahead and get started. We have picked out 3 pictures. So first one being of Delaney, second one being of Russell, and third one, which was a very monumental capture, was of Russell getting a tattoo. So first things first, let's start with the one with Delaney. So basically what I like to do, first things first, I like to do on any picture overall is I just like to compose. So composition for me basically just means crop and basically find your rule of thirds. Rule of thirds are basically this grid line, and it helps with like a guide for the eye to basically line up whatever subject you have in frame, which it's Delaney. He's in frame. He basically is going to be the center of attention. So I'm setting up my grid line to have him centered in the middle. And I always like to crop everything to a 4:5. That's the usual portrait ratio for most pictures. So that's how I start any edit. Crop it to a 4:5 and find a nice solid composition. Let me just straighten this out just a little bit. And boom, that should be solid. Perfect, no issues there. Next things next, what I like to do, quick tip on my end, I always like to start off with the tone curve versus the exposure tab over here, because the tone curve, whenever you use the tone curve, for some reason you don't get as much grain as if whenever you would start with the exposure first, the highlights and all that. The amount of grain that you get from overexposing a picture in your tone curves is reduced. So overall, it looks like a already nicely toned picture, exposed picture. So I think we're just gonna drop off the highlights to bring some detail back in this fire, because if you look here, the fire in the background is very blown out. So if we bring down the highlights just a tad and just mess around with the tone curves, we can bring some detail back in that fire, which that fire looks phenomenal if I do say so myself. So in this one, we're not really going to use any presets. We're just going to go ahead and go full and raw in it. Now I'm just going to go ahead and mess with the vibrance just a little bit. Nothing too vibrant. Then we're going to add some vibrance, so 10 should be good. And we're going to desaturate the picture just a tad to give it like a moodier feel. So now we're going to go down to the colors in the saturation tab, and we're going to mess around with each individual color, see what we get out of it. And so it's a very vibrant picture, so I'm going to just edit it as it is. There's no reason for us to, you know, desaturate it, we could make it black or white, and that would give us a different vibe. But first things first, we're gonna edit it as I'm seeing it. It's very vibrant, it's very epic. There's a lot of red, a lot of orange. Gonna go now with the luminance, keep it as is. bring the yellows down just a tad to save some detail. Bring up the luminance on the blues. Bring it up on the purple and your magentas, and you can see it's messing around with the weights on here. So I'm feeling a warmer vibe on this, so we're gonna go ahead and go to the midtones in our color grading. We're gonna go over to our orange section. And so, quick tip: if you're going around with the mouse, right? I'm in the orange section. If you hold on Shift, you're able to just now move around in the saturation pile, in the saturation slider on the thing. So we're in the orange. We just want a little bit of warmth in the midtones, and that should be straight. Now if we go to the shadows, I'm thinking a little bit of, honestly, orange too, but just a tad. I'm thinking like 3, 2. And overall, if we do the before and after, you can see it gives us like a nice little warm tint to the picture itself. So in the highlights, I don't think I really want to mess around too much with the highlights here, so I'm just going to double click and it resets for you right then and there. We're going to sharpen the image just a little bit, going up to maybe 80. If you hold on Option, you can see what you're basically editing in the picture. You can see how much you're adding to it. So right now we're doing the radius and the sharpening, and that's what we're giving it. And now if we do the same thing with detail, that's what we're doing it to it. And mask, basically that's all that you're editing in the whenever you sharpen up the picture. And this is sharpening up everything. So we just want to sharpen like the outside borders of the individuals, so that should be good. And then before and after on that, you can see, especially right here, slightly just sharpen right there, so that's solid. Nothing too much on the nose reduction. We're gonna add a little bit of grain to give it some nice little film textures. If we add fully, I want to see what that. Oh, that actually doesn't look that bad, in my opinion. But we're gonna probably do like 20. 20 should be good. Before, after, slight warm tint to it. Honestly, we're probably gonna go back up on some saturation here. Just give it a little bit more. I'm thinking like maybe like 15. Beautiful, beautiful, solid picture. And now we're gonna go over to our gradually filter and do a mask down below, and we're gonna basically point more towards Delaney as he is the main subject of the picture. We're gonna dehaze and give the ground a lot of contrast, a lot of like texture and clarity, just to make Delaney pop and guide everything to him being the center of attention. And then if we go up top, I'm actually thinking about probably gonna crop the top just a little bit, because there's not much going on at top that needs to be filmed. So yeah, even then that's a perfect picture right there. It's beautiful. Like the colors are very well saturated to where they're not being crushed, right? If we were to go all the way up, you're gonna really see the colors in his face already being crushed and already being overly done. So it's saturated, yes, but not too much to where it is being crushed. That's just perfect for me, in my opinion. There is some magenta and purple, so let me see if I can actually do anything here with the saturation. Maybe like desaturate that just so it's not popping too much in his head. And then if we go back, that should be good. A little bit. I would say let's do some black, but then that would do the blacks on everything. I'm thinking if we could just, let me just go ahead and add a brush over this and see if we can desaturate that, because that's kind of throwing me off just a little bit. Okay, that works. That works just fine. You can't even tell. So before, after, yeah, that whole like just red magenta like right there was just throwing me off, but that's perfect. That's solid. But yeah, overall the picture looks pretty good to me. There's really nothing else much I would do to it, and I would make that a post-worthy picture. So picture 1 done. Basically that's really my approach to photo editing. Now going over to this recent post that I shot of Russell. So basically what this is in the jungle cable machine thingy-magob. This is like going, I shot this one in 85 at 1.4, and I shot in between the lap hold down and the row. If you guys know, there's like the cables with the tubes, and then if you shoot in between, you get that nice little blur of the tubes. That's what this is. So same like the other picture, we're gonna go ahead and 4x5 nicely center this, make him the center of attention, which that's pretty spot on right there, nothing too much. And then we're gonna use a preset for this. So for this one, we're gonna go over to our preset packs and see which one fits the vibe best for this. I'm kind of feeling cinema, so we're gonna go ahead and use cinema here. So whenever I'm editing with presets, first off, they're my presets, so I already know what look they're gonna give. And a preset is basically in the name, like it's a preset, so it's not ever gonna be the final look. It's just gonna be a nice base for you to work off of into an already established look that you have in mind. Boom. So with this, I can already tell I want to change the highlights. I feel like the highlights are very, very loud in this, and maybe bring down the shadows just a tad too. Same with the whites, and then maybe bring up the blacks just a little bit, and that is good. So if you guys can see here, there's some purple on the tubes, so an easy fix for that is we're gonna go down to the purple saturation in the colors, and we're just gonna bring that down. Just bring that down, and then bring the luminance up just a tad bit. And overall, this is a pretty solid picture. I'm just gonna mess around with this sharpening in this just to make sure it's very nicely sharpened, which it was. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and mess around with the sliders, double check on everything. Same thing, if you press option and click, you're able to see what exactly you're messing with on the sliders. Noise reduction is good. Maybe add some grain to it. So we're at 30 grain. Let's see what that looks like. Then we're gonna add a little bit more grain, probably like 50. A photographer's most used tool, which is grain. And overall, that is a solid picture. Let's mess around with the texture and just see what's popping. See what we like, if we like anything. Nothing clearly. Ooh, okay, shit. Bring down the dehaze just a little bit. Bring it up, actually. Probably what, 30? Does that look like? Ooh, okay. Let's bring that down to like 20. 20 should be good. Yeah, I saw. That's perfect. And then boom, that's a solid IG post worthy picture right there. And yeah, it's as simple as that. That's the beauty about presets. Like, it's a simple one click, and then you just readjust, and then that was literally within 5 minutes of editing. Nothing too crazy. Now we're here. This is my most recent shoot that I just did this weekend, which was Russell getting a tattoo. With this, I'm already thinking like vintage film vibes, right? So a lot of grain, a lot of desaturated colors. First things first, what we always do, we're gonna compose a picture. Use a rule of thirds to guide our subjects, make them the center of attention. And then we're actually gonna use one of our presets from our second pack, which is Street. And that already is giving it a very like film, Kodak film, like vintage vibe type of look. So I think so far what we're gonna start off is, if you guys can see here, the highlights are just a little bit too blown out for me, so we're gonna go ahead and bring those down just a tad, and we're gonna actually bring down the shadows just a little bit too. The whites is fine, so we're gonna Command Z to undo what we just did, And then we're gonna mess around with the blacks. We're gonna actually go ahead and reset this channel, and I am actually gonna go ahead and do a new curve because I want to add some film look to it, which if you guys can see here, I'm adding some blacks. So basically if I bring this all the way down, I'm messing with the blacks. It looks very like a negative, so I'm just gonna bring it up just a little bit, probably like output 15. Bring in some blacks, give it a vintage film vibe. Then we're just gonna mess around with the saturation, see what's good, see what's not. We want them to be saturated enough to where you can see the skin tones, but unsaturated to where you can still maintain that film type of look. So even with the hat, we don't want to make it pop out, right? We want it to where you can tell what color it is, but also to where it won't be so loud in the picture. Bring the luminance of that just up a tad. Bring up the luminance of their skin tones. And yeah, I think now we're gonna go ahead and just mess around with the some grain. Add some grain to it. Give it more of a vintage look. Yeah, I'm thinking that's a little bit too much for me, so maybe 35 would be good. Mess around with the size. That's pretty big, so we're gonna keep it at 15. And yeah, that should be pretty solid for me, not gonna lie. I'm gonna use a graduated filter, bring the center of attention to Russell and Mendo. I'm gonna dehaze the bottom. We don't want to crush the blacks, so we're just gonna bring it down just a tad. We're gonna bring up the shadows a little bit. Same with the highlights, we're gonna bring up those highlights. And we're gonna bring down the contrast just a tad. And then we're gonna do a radio filter. I'm gonna put this over Mendo and Russell. Kind of use like a vignette, nothing too crazy, nothing too loud, just something very small and simple to where these two are the center of attention. But overall, that's a solid look. Let me mess around with the warmth. So if we bring the warmth down, if we bring the temperature down to cool, gives it a nice little cool vintage vibe. Bring it up to some warmth, nice little warm vintage look. So we're gonna put it how it was, which is 5800. I'm thinking maybe 55. Yeah, that's perfect. And then boom, that is a look. But yeah, there you have it. Nothing, once again, nothing too complicated, nothing too crazy. Literally just a very simple approach to how I go about editing. My editing process is very simple, mostly because I've been doing it for so long. I've been able to set myself up with presets. Presets are just a very day-to-day use for myself because it's already a look that I've established in my own editing process. So for me to simply just click a button and do a few tweaks and have it out to my clients just like that, it's very beneficial. So I'm gonna go over more detailed tutorial type of videos down the line, like going over tone curves, going over your HSL tabs, going over your basic tabs, or even in Final Cut going over how to use a LUT with multiple clips, or going over transitions, or going over texture packs. The amount of videos that are to come are going to be endless, and I'm very excited because this is fun. This is very fun for me to kind of like give back, right? I've been doing this for a good 60 to 70 years now, and I'm still learning every day, still learning about it from a creative point of view or even from a business point of view. So for me to be able to just sit down for 15, 20 minutes, talk to the camera, talk to you guys, and just kind of give you guys back some knowledge and some things that I wish I would have known whenever I first started. It's very beneficial, and I'm glad to be in a position to be able to do that. So without further ado, If you guys wanted to use the presets that I did use in this video, links are gonna be down below. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Subscribe for more because more is coming. And until next time, I will catch you guys later. Peace.